What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened in the scale world of RC over the past week. If you enjoy the Scale News Update regularly, hit the like button. Let's jump into this week's topics. First for this week, JConcepts released a bunch of 124 scale bodies following a number of their 1/10 scale bodies. The first one being the Corvair. Now they've had the Corvair for the 10th scale for a year or probably 2 years, maybe more by this point, and finally bringing that down to the 1/24th scale. Corvairs are obviously not very popular off-road platforms, but popularized by Matt's Off-Road Recovery. So, you know, the reasoning for the choice to include that in the RC lineup makes a little bit more sense that way. Also, they brought in the Warlord tucked version. This is that kind of pickup style, tucked meaning that it's got a bit of a pinched, design to it for extra clearance. Pretty standard look. This is a pretty decent looking body. I would say out of the ones that they released, this one would be my favorite. Then they have the Warneer, which is like an SUV version of that Warlord. Very similar beyond that part of it, just an SUVized. Is that a word? Can we make up a word today? Feels appropriate, but again, looks pretty normal. Then we start getting a little better yet. 1992 Ford Ranger. Who doesn't love a Ford Ranger? So this one, again, it's just a decent looking little truck. Ford Ranger, you either like them or you don't. But the best one that they released this last week is the Ford F1 body. There's something a little off on this one. The lower part does not match the upper part. The top part of it just looks like Beetlejuice. Just like the head got shrunk down on the top part of it, but I don't know why this thing reminds me of Quagmire or Beetlejuice, one or the other a little bit more. This one would not be my choice. Out of all of them that they released, I think that this one would be one of the last. But it was funny because I saw the press releases come out for them, and all of them were in one press release except this one when I initially saw it, and then this one was just separate. I was like, oh, that's interesting that this one got separated from the rest. I think they kicked it out of the group even. So anyway, those will hit the JConcepts website if you'd like to find more information or you'd like to order one of those. I'll have links to all of them down in the description below, as well as links to all of the stories that we'll talk about this week. Next, a new one from Furitek. This is labeled as the Terra X Active Pro 4-Wheel Steer 1/18th ARTR Crawler Champagne Nude Edition. That is the full name that they have labeled here. Now, there's a number of things to unpack on this. It is labeled ARTR, but it's an RTR. It doesn't come with the battery, so they're not calling it RTR. In 10th scale, that would be called an RTR all day. But in the smaller scale stuff, you often see that everything is included, so they're kind of differentiating that. But you are getting what many of us would still kind of see as a full RTR for what they're offering here. Now, it is built with a bunch of, pretty interesting, pretty nice parts in general. Carbon fiber chassis. Their 2-in-1 outrunner system that comes on this. So the ESC mounts to like the motor plate side, and then the outrunner is behind it, which is kind of a cool system as well. Now, the body is a hard body. So that is injection molded. And I'm not totally sure what they were injection molding just before they decided to injection mold this body in this color, but I think I would have reconsidered. The Nude Edition, like, somebody knows, or somebody Googled it, and I don't think that this would have been the color that I would have thought was a reasonable choice for a hard body RC car. It's an odd looking body at that, but some people like different body styles, and that's just kind of the side of it. Being that the whole truck is a performance-based or oriented, focused type truck, being 4-wheel steer, and it's got the breakover angle and all that, putting a hard body on it may be a little bit odd, being the extra weight. A Lexan body would have likely been something that would have been a little bit better for performance side of things. So the hard body side might be the slightly odd choice for that, let alone the design, especially the color. But it's got the 4-wheel steer controller that we've seen from Furitek before, where it's got the little knob just above where your thumb would go on the hand grip. If you've ever used it before, it's not like maybe the most comfortable, but it's not that uncomfortable. It's not a bad 4-wheel steer controller. So very small radio, compact, easy to use in general. But if you want an 18th scale 4-wheel steer Champagne Nude Edition, now I will say also available in at least one other color, but I thought that this one was the one to use. And also the long name, as you can see, runs off the edge of the screen here. That's what they named it, not me. Last week we talked about the Boom Racing Builder's Kit that was coming out soon, and we got full information on that this week. This is the BRX-01 Builder's Kit. This is the platform that we saw underneath of that hard body pickup version of the BRX-01 that they were selling just here in the last several months. It is an adjustable wheelbase. It doesn't go very long. It's still like in that 11-inch range at the long side of it. It's a leaf sprung builder's kit. It's not cheap. $545 is what it's listed as for this builder's kit setup. But if you're looking for a well-engineered leaf sprung platform, this looks like probably the best option that's on the market at this point. Nice skid plates that are fully integrated front to rear in the center of the chassis, makes everything a nice smooth transition. The skid plates are plastic, so they're gonna slide better. Overall, it just looks like, if you're in the market for that type of truck, the best option. But again, not inexpensive, but available now, and it is nice that it is adjustable at that. So you can check the link down in the description below for more of Boom Racing's offerings. Next, Losi released an LMT Mini Zombie Edition. Now, I saw photos of this weekend, and I thought it was just like a custom build that they were showing. And it was being held by Bari, who is the driver of the full size and is an avid RC enthusiast himself. So I thought it was just a custom build that someone was showing him, because the Zombie platform, or body style is so intricate that I just didn't think that they would do that whole setup in an RC, but I was wrong. It's cool that they did go to the lengths that they did. It's got the arms that stick out the side, the whole deal. If you're a monster truck fan, you have a favorite monster truck, this happens to be it. It would be cool to be able to get everything that it truly has in the full size down to this little tiny 1/18th scale Mini. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool and very unexpected for me. I thought the shark one, Megalodon, I called it Sharklodon the first time. Megalodon. I thought that one was kind of funny and kind of cool. This one steps that up a little bit as well. Now, if you already have an LMT Mini and you just want to buy the body set, they did list that available already. Also, it's like $90, but there's a lot to it. It's already pre-printed or painted, however, I assume that it's a screen printed and then cut body design with the arms and the whole deal. So there's a lot to it. If you want to transfer, be able to have both, I get where the price comes from. I also noticed while I was looking at the new listings that they have just the hood available, and that thing is nightmare fuel. Wow, that's because I just saw it kind of first as a thumbnail. Did not really see everything. It was the first thing I noticed before I saw the full body kit. Stood out a little bit. And I'm far too tired to come up with a segue, but if you're interested in channel membership, it's where you get some extra videos behind the scenes. You get to see videos early, like Scale News Update. You get an extra video, which is called Afternoon's Delight, which is an extension of this show where you go back over some things, see extra stuff behind the scenes, as well as just other standalone videos. If you're interested in that, helping support the channel a little bit extra, there's a link down in the description below. You can find out all about it. Thanks to everyone who's a channel member, and thanks to everybody who watches all of the videos. This Wednesday, live stream takeover. Matt and I are both back in our respective studios and ready to get back to the regular show. Last week, we were both traveling to different places, had to do an impromptu shortened version of the show, ready to get back to the full live stream takeover, but we couldn't break our streak. The show had to go on. So come check that out, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And if you work for an RC company and like to see any of your products on the Scale News Update, you can shoot me an email to news@harleydesigns.com. Include a photo and a description and a link to where it can be found specifically on your website. I'll take a look at it, see if we can get it here on the Scale News. One of the items from this week is a new release from Reefs RC. This is their new 1.9 scrub tires. Scrub is a term in tires, often means like as you kind of wear in a set from new to try and get, them feathered in a little bit or kind of get the edges rounded in. So it's a term that we would see often. Now, these tires are called that because they do have that kind of weathered or worn in look to one edge of the lugs on the tires. The other side of the tire lug does not. It's still a typical sharp edge like you would see on a new set of tires that you took out of the bag typically. So that was kind of interesting. I haven't seen somebody, look or advertise something in that way. And even the actual tread blocks themselves kind of have that worn in look to it rather than the shiny look that a tire normally has when it comes out of a mold. So again, thought that was also a little bit interesting on that side. And it doesn't use a silly font on the sidewell. Another bonus. Pretty standard height to these. The design themselves is similar to a BFG crawler, kind of like generally in the area, but not so close that it, just about anybody would say that. So, probably a decent performing tire. It's coming in their pink compound. They do have two compounds. This is the one that is generally said to be for like their colder type climates, things like that. These tires are stated to be more for people who are on slab type crawling rather than like loose or things like that. That's where the scrubbed in or worn in type tires seem to work best. But if you're looking for more information on that, check out Reefs RC. Also, this week in the email, OCD RC sent me some bed stacks that they're selling. These are some TIG welded stainless steel tubes that are meant to look like exhaust stacks that you would see on generally big rigs, sometimes just broified diesel pickups in general, but they made a small version of these that you can pick up for your crawler. Now, the bolt pattern that's on there is just a pretty simple 2-bolt pattern. It is specifically made to fit onto a chassis that they offer, or a couple of chassis that they offer, but with just 2 holes, seems like you could probably pretty easily put this on just about anything. So may not be super helpful in rollovers, but if you got to have the style, you love that look, check out OCD RC. This week, Vanquish Products released a new size of the VTS Stance foams. These are a dual stage foam. This time, it's the 5.1 inch tall 2.2 size. This will be a good fit for some of the Vanquish 2.2 tires, like the Yokohama XMTs that are currently out. Those were released on Monday, and they're available on the site for purchase now. RC Four-Wheel Drive released a new 40 series tire, or 3.8 inch wheel. These are 7 3/4 inch tall. These are a big wheel, or a big tire, excuse me. 40 series, that's a term that you don't hear as much now. We used to hear it a lot more in the past. It was kind of like a popular monster truck size wheel, but RC Four-Wheel Drive does have wheels that fit, even stamped steel wheels that are beadlocks that you can use these tires on. Beyond that, I'm not 100% sure the use case for these. I was initially thought, it was like, oh, it's SCX6, but those are like a 2.9, not a 3.8. These are significantly taller. So not 100% sure where you're using these, but the Mickey Thompson Baja Pro X, popular tread pattern these days. We see that, we see it in the full-size world quite a bit, and we see it on a lot of RCs right now. And RC Four-Wheel Drive had another tire that they released. This was the Toyo M55 Off-Road 2.6 inch tires. 2.6 meaning the wheel size. These are 3.8 inches tall. Now, the photo that I've got here is set up on a set of duals. This was specifically said that these duals were made for the Red Cat COE. So that would be one use case for these. Maybe this would also be a fit for something like the CEN F450, but I could be wrong. Maybe someone will have to correct me on that. More off-road style than the stock tires. Pretty limited uses, I imagine, but you know, for some of those special type builds, you need some options like this sometimes. Then a photo got passed around coming from Cross RC. This is the SC6. Now, I'm not able to find this on any of Cross's actual channels. Can't find any information about it anywhere. It looks like it kind of came out of like one of the WeChat groups, but it does have the typical Cross branding on it, as well as their logo styles and things like that. So I do assume that this is a proper photo or proper model of a tease that will be out before long, and that it is no surprise. We oftentimes see these like things get out from Cross RC way before we see any official information. Sometimes, you know, many months ahead of when a product actually becomes available. But Cross has a lot of these types of vehicles. The differences between them are sometimes maybe a little bit, you know, outside of the scope of things that I can remember all of those details about. But this thing does look good. I often like some of these cab over type vehicles Cross makes. I've had a couple of them in the past, and for the type of truck that they are a smaller scale than 1/10, like a 1/12 typically. Then I ran across this one, which was interesting. This is from WPL, the D14, and this is the Golf Edition, not Golf, but Golf, Golf, not GULF, but with the well-known Golf color scheme and logo style on the side. I assume that it was a purposeful change of wording to avoid, you know, trademark type concerns, but a funny one nonetheless. You could see this being possibly just a mistranslation typo type thing. Or again, maybe they're just trying to skirt around it without having to try and get a letter from somebody, even though oftentimes that stuff happens overseas and there isn't much that happens from it. But these D12s, D14s, D32, all of the different D series that WPL has are a lot of fun, fairly inexpensive. The costs have fluctuated a little bit in the last couple of years. They used to be like around 50 bucks. I think now they're around 70 or 80 bucks. But they can be a lot of fun. And also they had in this listing and listed on their website separately now that you can get the body kit for these directly from them. Body kits and drift tires have been done a ton of times by people with custom builds and 3D printers and things like that. But now WPL is actually offering those things as available to you. So you can just buy it, put it on there, because it does look pretty good with the body kit. I don't hate it. Not too bad, but that does it for this week's news stories. This week's news, a little bit short because I have been traveling since very early in the morning and I am wrecked. But I don't want to skip out on this week's questions. So talking about that WPL and the Golf Edition, can you guys remember any of those like funny or interesting, maybe not a typo, maybe a typo type situations that you've seen on an actual product? Not like just on the box, but on the product themselves. I think back in the day, I remember RC Four-Wheel Drive released a tire that was supposed to be called like the Dirt Grabber, and they spelled dirt wrong or grabber wrong, one or the other, but it was like right on the sidewall of the tire. I think it was like Derg Grabber or something like that. But it was like that for a little while. Kind of funny, not something that you see all that often, but if you've got any funny typos that you remember finding on a product, put it down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this week's news. I appreciate you all for watching. Thanks for hanging in there as I power through the scale news for this week. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks again for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're not already. Channel membership's available. Notification bell helps a bunch. With that, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.